Hello and good afternoon, everybody. We are so happy to have you join us today on our amazing webinar with our incredible partner, which is the only product name that you can say while eating. I remember this from our demo. If you haven't checked it out, they did an amazing demo with us in November. If you want to check out their product, you can certainly do that there. So with that being said, we're going to dive in today to Video Sales Playbook. Outreach, engage, and close. I hope you guys are super excited for this because I certainly am. I'm always excited to learn about this stuff. Please be sure to drop all of your questions either into the chat or the Q&A section. Our amazing speakers will be taking those questions live towards the end of the webinar. So make sure you guys are dropping them often and throughout the entire webinar. Also, one more housekeeping. This is being recorded. This will be sent out to every single person who registered for the event within 24 to 48 hours from Rev Genius. So all of that housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael, who is going to introduce all of our amazing speakers and then get started. Hope you guys enjoy, and thank you so much again for joining with us this afternoon.
How about now? Can people hear me? Okay, I had to switch. I don't know. I'm having audio issues all day. If that does happen again, please just use that chat like you did, because that was awesome. Because I was talking and no one could hear me. Thanks for doing that. Thank you so much. If I don't sound great, because the microphones give me issues. But thank you so much for joining. As you now learn how to use the chat to tell me I had no sound, why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're joining from? That would be fantastic, just to get a sense, get some people chatting, because we do want this to be a conversation. That's what today is. I am Michael Perkupka from Nice to meet everyone. We have an agenda. We have questions we're going to go through. I'd like to talk a little bit about what is. It is a name you can say while eating. That is true. That is factual. But it's also, if we do a good job today, what you all should be saying as we're explaining things. Like, that makes sense. That's where the name actually comes from. If you're wondering, it's what your audience says when you use to explain things. I'll show a little bit about it. But let me just shut up, because I'm going to be the moderator for today. I am going to watch the chat. I'm going to hope and pray my audio doesn't go out again. But I would like to let my co-host, I don't know what else to call you guys. I would like to let you guys introduce yourselves. I'll go last and tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll kick it into some topics, give you a little bit of an overview. So Chelsea, I'm going to throw it your way. Would you give a quick just intro about yourself, your background in sales, all the things you want the audience to know?
Sure. I'm Chelsea Olson. I'm the founder of an agency called Close. We help sales teams and marketing teams fully leverage LinkedIn to increase sales and build a brand. I have been in sales for 20 years. I've been selling on LinkedIn for 15 of those years and teaching other companies how to sell on LinkedIn for 8 years. And using video for all of it.
Amazing. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Ellenbach. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Quartile. We are a digital advertising company focused on retail. We manage ads for tons and tons of marketplace sellers and e-commerce retailers, helping them make efficient use of their ad spend with data. I've been in software sales for about 10 years. I started as an SDR, worked my way up into individual contributorship and leadership. And I love it and can't imagine doing anything else.
Fantastic. I also had the pleasure of working with Andrew for a number of years. So it's cool to do this with you, Andrew. And Chelsea, it's fantastic to meet you. I'm excited to learn from you today. I think that's awesome. So here's me. In a nutshell, I'll tell you a little bit about my sales, but I am a father of 2 amazing kids. I have a son named Mikey, a daughter named Tess, 7 and 4. They keep me real busy. And in my free time, I love all racket sports. That's what I do. I love tennis. I love pickleball. I love ping pong. I played baseball most of my life, but then I grew very tired of it and fell into racket sports. It is my passion these days. If you like them as well, let me know. I'm also seeing people coming from California, from London, from Tel Aviv. Fantastic. So keep using that chat. It's really interesting. And now, yeah, I've been in sales myself for about a decade now. Sales and CS, 6 years at Sidecar/Quartile, which was a sales-led motion. Now I'm at for the last 3.5 years, which is product-led. So I've kind of seen both sides of the selling universe, if you will. I'm passionate about good storytelling, passionate about being good on video as well. So I'm looking forward to the chat. Like I said, I am going to moderate. I have a whole bunch of questions planned on this little tablet next to me to open up the conversation. I'll also participate because I do have I'm pretty passionate about that stuff. But I also encourage you to drop some questions in or reactions in the comments. If there's something you want us to react to, we'll do our best to do that. What I would like to do before we get into it, allow everyone to take a breath, is just give a little bit of an overview, not very long. We had a demo that we did with Rev Genius in November. We can post a link to that and go check it out. Just give a little overview, 1.5 minute overview of what this product is with the crazy name. And I think it helps to start with what our mission is. The mission behind is to improve communication, specifically at work, but you could even just take the first two words. It's to improve the quality of communication, to help you be understood. If you have something to say, we want to help you be better at that. And what I think we really are trying to do, as we all went remote years ago, what is trying to do, but to improve the quality of communication, is to challenge the status quo. And what do I mean by that? We all went remote. We're all used to sitting in meetings that look exactly like this. Okay, meeting starts. Let me share my screen. Oh, can you see my slides? Let me know. Give me the thumbs up. Every meeting that I sat in for years looked like this. You're probably thinking, if you sat in a meeting like this, you can let us know. This is just the way it was. I would argue that, yeah, this works, but it's not the best way to communicate. There's almost like a reaction I get now to, okay, in one of these meetings, let me just see what's going on my phone. Let me scroll through some things. So in a world where every online live meeting looks like this, and a world where, okay, now some people have used video recordings in work and they all kind of look like this. If you can relate with this, a head in a bubble, you have a screen share behind them. I think what is trying to do is say, yeah, these are good starts. We want to challenge that status quo by allowing you to be on screen with your content, whether it be a lower third like I'm using right here in front of me, whether it be content over my shoulder, whether it be however you want to show up on video, you can show up on video, whether it be like this, or potentially you want to go split screen with your content and flip through content that way, or you want to go picture in picture to show you another picture of my great kids, or even use that to go through an agenda. There's a lot of different, you can even be, pretend you're a news reporter, sit at a desk, go through content this way. If you can imagine it, and you are creative enough, allows you to do it. It really does, again, hopefully engage the audience and improve your quality of communication, allow you to be understood. It does work wherever you're working. We like to say when your camera's on, should be on with you. When that's what it is. So wherever a camera is in your life, integrates there. Specifically, we're using it today on this meeting, but Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, whether you're on Slack, whatever. So that's again, it was about a little over 1.5 minutes, almost 2 minutes there. But that's in a nutshell. If you have questions about it, again, there's plenty of ways we can help answer it. Today, what I want to do is now focus today's topics. So I'm just going to leave this up next to me. This is just like, if you've seen certain shows, they use this to kind of tell you what's coming. We're going to go through a bunch of topics. We're going to have questions related to each topic. Like I said, I really want to allow the co-host to do a lot of these speaking, because what you'll see is I think we have a lot of different opinions about video. But I broke it up into, we already went through the introductions, but I do have one intro question I want to queue up there, and then go through outreach, the actual live calls, social selling, and then finish up with some final thoughts, the big finish. So if that sounds good, what I'll do is start with an intro question. I think it's important to give the audience a lay of the land, if you will, and to tell, you guys gave your background in sales, but what are your sales conversations look like? How does video fit in right now? Can you just give a little bit of background? I think that would be a good way to start kicking off the conversation, to let everyone know what frame of mind we're coming with. So I'll start, because I started with Chelsea last time. Andrew, if you would go first here.
Well, first of all, I feel like I'm on First Take with Stephen A. Smith right now, Mike. It's a great, I don't know if that's what you're going for, but this is a great visual setup for us here. So my team works primarily in the SMB and like the lower end of the mid-market segment. So we work with a lot of small businesses. We work with a lot of sole proprietorships, entrepreneurs. Again, we support e-commerce companies. So the barrier to entry for selling something on Amazon or for spinning up an e-commerce website especially for folks who do like drop shipping or don't actually hold inventory, is pretty low. There are a lot of people that can do this, which means it's a very, very big market. And we can hold a really high volume of conversations. So I have a team of anywhere between 4 and 6 sales reps usually, and they held 3,200 demos last year. So our calendars are very, very busy. And every single one of these meetings is, we use Zoom as our video platform, but is a video call, right? Which is a combination of discovery. We do some platform demo. We use some slides. But my team and I are on video with prospective clients all day, every day. I mean, my team, an individual on my team might hold 10 demos with net new prospects in a day. So using video to sell is obviously pretty much all we do. And the volume of the conversations is very, very high. So we need to be able to appear well, get through an agenda, make the connection, add value in 30 minutes, 7 to 10 times a day, all face-to-face on video, just like this.
Awesome. Chelsea, you want to do the same?
Sure. Well, like Andrew, I am on video all day long as well, back to back in meetings and taking discovery calls. And then also I train sales teams, marketing teams on sales and LinkedIn. So I'm doing all of my training through video. But push that aside for a second. I use video primarily for outreach, like video messages to my prospects, and I teach others how to do this as well. And then also I'm a content creator on LinkedIn and some other platforms, and I've been using video for years to build a brand, and I teach others how to do it. So video is literally like a part of my everyday life. Like I don't think there's one day, not even Sunday, that goes by and I'm not on a video.
Sounds similar. Thank you both. And by the way, I just had that number of 3,200 demos just sat in with me. So that's a lot.
We're having fun.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I would just give a little bit of context myself. I work at so not only am I on video all the time, I'm also educating or helping people discover what's possible with video, and to discover what should be on live video, what should be on recorded video. And I would say the only other bit of context I would add is, not only am I doing sales on video, our company is globally distributed. We're talking, I think the last number I heard was 17 different countries. And that just becomes very difficult to synchronize calendars and to communicate. So what we have really leaned into is using video to solve that gap, to send video updates, to do that with the team, so you can see emotions, you can come through with your video. So we've not only, again, in sales and helping people there, internally we use video again to keep each other updated. So I think that's one bit of context I would do there. The question that, as I posted about this on LinkedIn, 3 people, and I'm not going to call names, I'm not sure if they're here or not, messaged me, and I saw a poll on LinkedIn. So I want to just offer this question to the group as well. Is, when you're on a video call, are you always video on, or do you go video off? And there's some very passionate people on both sides. And do you separate it by internal versus external calls? I'd be curious to know what you guys say. Are you always video on, or do you ever go video off? Either one of you can just hop in.
I don't understand everything that we do. I'm in inside sales, right? I made my career in almost exclusively inside sales. So I'm communicating with people and I'm not in the same room as them. And in my opinion, so much of communication is what you're not saying. It's how you gesticulate, what your face looks like. So if I'm just on the phone with someone, I lose my ability to A, understand them, and B, to help them understand me. Like 40-50% of that communication, I would say, is nonverbal. I'm always camera on. I don't see a reason to, if you can't have your camera on, just call them on the phone. What are you using a video web platform for?
Yeah,
Chelsea,
I'm
do you
very
agree?
strict. Yeah, I'm very strict about this. Not, well, for myself, of course, I'm on video, but if a prospect comes on and they don't have their video on, I'll be like, "Oh, I can't see you." And then I get really quiet and I just wait. I do everything I can to get them on the video. And if they really can't get on the video, sometimes I'll be like, "Do you want to reschedule where you can, sit down and we can figure this out?" Because it's that important that I'm having that connection with them. If I'm going to invest 30 minutes of my time, my valuable time, they need to have their camera on and be invested in this conversation as well. Otherwise, what are we even doing?
Yeah.
I love it when I would say I'm probably I don't know, 60%, 60 to 65% of the folks that my team and I speak to do proactively turn their videos on. There is certainly going to be a decent chunk that
Mhm.
don't for whatever reason. But my favorite is the people who turn their camera on and are visually distracted throughout the whole conversation. We're giving a sales pitch and we're asking them questions, and I can see them working on something else. So like kind of like waving to
Yeah.
the other person in the office. That's my favorite.
Yeah, no, you guys know I agree. Video on, but I think there's a philosophy that you should let your prospect choose video on or off. And I just I for a while I found the philosophy of that okay, but I think it's like you said. I don't want to echo your points. I just thought it was an interesting way to start this conversation. Let's get into I guess the next sales topic. I think this is an interesting one. I've tried a lot of different things with sales outreach, but I am not going to share my own first. I'm just going to offer a question first and let you guys react here because I think you guys are going to differ in some answers here. But video outreach,
Mhm.
right? I'm talking about trying to set meetings, trying to capture attention for new prospects, fill top of funnel, whatever your term might be for it. Some people use video, some people don't. I guess the first way I'll ask this at a high level, and feel free to take, in any direction you want. And again, if you have thoughts about it in the chat or have a specific question to follow up, just throw it in there. But the question was that, have you experimented with video outreach? And if so, what has particularly been successful and what has not been successful? So it's like a loaded question. And if you haven't done it, why not? So let me just repeat that for the audience, let you guys get your thoughts together. First question is, have you tried it? What has worked, what has not worked, and if you haven't done it, why not? So, Chelsea, I'll throw this to you if you'd like to take the lead on this, and we'll see where this takes us.
Sure. Well, like I was saying before, I teach people how to use LinkedIn to build their pipelines. And a big thing on LinkedIn is outreach. So if you really want to put deals into the pipe and close deals and get new clients, you need to be doing outreach. And everyone thinks of sending connection requests and automating that and sending spam messages, but things have completely changed. And that used to work. I owned a lead gen company and I was the queen of automation and AI 4 or 5 years ago, and I loved it. And it was working and converting, and then it stopped. So now I encourage people to automate the connection request and then take it off. And from there, to take the step, do the research and send a video message. So you can manually type out to somebody, something that you saw on the profile, like, hey, I just saw you posted about this and went down the rabbit hole. So you had a pretty big sales team, or you guys using LinkedIn for outreach or something like that, right? You could do that. But if you do it with a video message, what you're proving to them is that you're not AI, you're not a bot, that you are actually invested in them, and it's going to increase the response rate and the conversion rate on the meetings booked. So that's like one spot is really, really powerful. And you could do video through email as well, but that does get tricky with deliverability.
I think the LinkedIn prospecting is absolutely fascinating, and I think is going to be a more and more important piece of the puzzle as fewer people will answer the phone for numbers that they don't recognize, and as email outreach is just like less and less and less efficient. Um, I was just thinking about this. I started my first SaaS sales job in the beginning of 2015, so 10 years ago, and I was an SDR, and this was like in the early days of cold email outreach, early-ish days of like SaaS related cold email outreach. And all we did was cold calls and cold emailing. And I never, frankly, really adapted from that because so much of the segments that my team and I reach out to we are able to catch them on the phone, and we do convert better on cold calls. And when we have experimented with video outreach, it's been through email, and we have, like Chelsea said, encountered issues with deliverability. Maybe it's caught in a spam filter because there's an attachment or whatever. Any issues, or anytime you're like attaching files or links or videos, how it actually works, I've never really got a clear understanding, but I know the more complex the message is, the less chance of it actually showing up in the person's inbox. So my team and I have experimented with platforms like Vidyard, which is like, oh, you can record short videos and it allows you to like more easily share those with prospects, but we just never converted well and kind of abandoned it. So I love the idea of using LinkedIn as just like a separate vector in general, because it sounds like, Chelsea, from what you're saying, this is just a pretty easy and standard part of how you can get in touch with people through LinkedIn versus like more cold outreach methods.
Yeah,
Let me.
people are
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry. I'm just people are used to ignoring the text messages, right? The actual words. And even with a voice note, because people will be like, I haven't done video, but I've done voice note. And I'm like, stop hiding. Because think about this, like playing a voice note, when you don't see the person's face, you're not intrigued enough to get headphones or play the audio. For me, even when people text me on a voice note, half the time I just see it, but then I can't play it because of the situation I'm in. So the other thing I want to say is like if you do voice notes, take it a step higher, do the video message.
I like that tip. Let me ask you another question. I'm sure you've both been, because I have as well, been on the receiving end of outreach from people trying to sell me stuff.
Mhm.
And I would just like to sometimes maybe ask you on your end of someone who receives outreach. Do you have you guys both just kind of alluded to like you reaching for your headphones? Are there any specific things you can like? I think one thing that sellers forget to do, if I'm just being honest, is put themselves in their prospect shoes and say, how would they want to be reached? And I guess I'm curious on the receiving end, do you prefer a text? Do you prefer an email outreach? Do you answer cold calls? Do you engage more with videos from the receiver's end? And just be honest, I'm curious, both of you. I guess Andrew, I'll kick it back over to you.
Yeah, I again, just for the audience's information, I am not huge into video as an outreach tool. Chelsea is much more the expert on that. I'm a dinosaur. I'm a cold call guy, and my team is very cold call heavy. So I always pick up the phone because it would be unfair of me to have made so many cold calls in my life and to not at least give the folks on the other side a shot. Um, to me, it's all about the lowest possible barrier to entry for the person that you're trying to get in touch with. If it requires me to put in any effort to receive your message, I'm probably not going to do it. So emails, I see it, the subject line doesn't immediately resonate with me, or I know it's a spam, I'm not going to open it up. I'm not going to read it most of the time. Cold call, I'll pick up the phone, right? Because that's a low barrier to entry. Video, again, interesting if the initial image that I see is compelling enough for me. Something that I've seen done, and this is from, a few years ago, was when Vidyard and these other like video email focused video platforms were starting to gain popularity. One of the recommendations I saw a lot was folks would use whiteboards to write the prospect's name on it. So the thumbnail of the image would be like, "Hi, Andrew." And that's like, okay, you're a real person. You at least know my name. I'm intrigued enough to watch this. So I'm curious to know, Chelsea, if you have any tricks to get people to go through that motion of, okay, I'm going to get the headphones or I'm going to open up the video and hear what you have to say.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So to answer that quick question, um, I have seen like people using video but with AI and then they kind of look like a robot and they're like, "Hello, Michael." And it's all like not like they're really like what is happening? So don't do that. Let's start there. I think it's just like an authentic video message works the best, but that's just me. Going back to the thing about cold calling, I get it, and I have empathy for cold calling, and I did it for years. I mean, I did door-to-door sales, cold calling in the early 2000s. Like, I've been there, and I feel bad for them, but you can't get a hold of me. So, like, I don't answer my phone. I barely answer for my own family. So, if someone calls me, I am truly back to back all day. Like, I am, unless it's a school nurse for my kids, I don't answer. I have a voicemail that actually says, "Don't call me, don't leave a voicemail, text me," because that's the only way to get a hold of me. And it's the truth. Like if there is an emergency, like text me. If my kid's dying at school, text me. Because I truly like I won't know, but I can see a text, right? If there is something going on. So for me, cold calling's not a huge part of my life. I won't answer. But I do advise my companies when I'm building outbound systems, like you have to work cold calling in. It's just part of getting clients. Like some people respond well to the phone, some respond to LinkedIn, some respond to cold email, right? And I mean, the conversion numbers I have, it's actually highest on LinkedIn, but you need all three, especially depending upon your ICP.
As we think about the funnel, one of the metrics that we have a great RevOps and sales intelligence team here who's always digging into this stuff. But a metric that one of the folks over there shared with me recently was that industry wide, and let's just call the industry software sales, right? Connection rate, meaning what percentage of the time when you dial a phone number are you actually going to get the person that you want, is something like 5%. So you need to make 20 dials, 20 cold calls to get a person that you're trying to speak to on the phone, let alone convert that into a meeting or whatever it is that you're trying to do there. So the efficiency of cold calling is really, really bad now,
Yeah.
especially post COVID, as very few people are in a physical office where you can reach them consistently. Which is why, again, I have so much interest in if you've got a certain number of man hours in a day across your team where you can do outreach, what use of that time is going to net you the best result? And the answer now may not be cold calling, may not be emailing, but it's going to have to be some sort of hybrid of various different methods, something like LinkedIn or video prospecting included.
Super interesting. Let me hop in and just say, just listening to you guys go back and forth, I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I rarely answer a cold call because I don't answer calls I don't know the number. But when I do, I try to give them a chance. I might learn something from them. I think we all as sellers should be learning from each other. Whoa, that was a cool way to open a call. So I'll start there. And then I'll also say there's two follow-up questions. One from the audience, which I'll pack in together. And it's all about like mistakes, if you will. So I want to know if we could share from our learnings, what are some common mistakes that people, sellers have that you've seen them run into? And I'll share mine first. And then I will answer this from the audience. I would say the biggest mistake I see when people go down the road of video, and I think it's a very important mistake to realize that maybe you do this without even realizing, is you want to do it, you have the passion for doing it, and you spend a lot of time making the video. You personalize it, it looks good, you're happy with the output, and then as soon as it's done, you just want to get it out. And you forget to think about, you guys mentioned delivery about spam blockers. I'm thinking about the delivery of the message. And what's the text that goes along with it? What kind of link are you sending? Are you sending a Giphy? Or how are you making it scalable to send it to other folks? I think that's like the next step that I see as a common, and I think it deters a lot of sales folks from going that next step. Is, oh man, I put a lot of time in this video outreach, and this person didn't watch it. I'm never doing that again. And I would just encourage that the mistake I see again is thinking about it. Think about the delivery of how you're sending it. What are you sending it? What does it look like? That is, and how do you make it scalable so the next one you send takes you way less time, so this becomes something that you can think is possible. I'm curious, before I ask the follow-up question, are there any other mistakes that you guys would offer about video that you've seen that you would offer to the people today?
The first one for me is just there's a baseline of presentability that shouldn't have to be articulated in my mind. Like, you don't need to look like a movie star, right? But like, you should look clean and you should have a decent presentation, decent background. Like, make sure your hair is combed. I only say that because I've gotten some video outreach where it's just like, this person just rolled out of bed and didn't have a chance to brush their teeth before they sent this video. Maybe it's because they're just working so hard, but I think it's goes without saying that you've got to look at least presentable, and in a better case you've got to look really great and have yourself really well put together and present a visual package that is professional and is appealing.
I'm like dying at one of the comments right now. It says stay hydrated. I actually have a shirt that says hydrated AF. And I did a post with it on, and I got a lot of engagement. So I don't know, Andrew, I'm a content creator, so I've probably been on video and not my best self. I think it is hard when you are doing it like day in, day out, when you're sick, like when you have your period as a woman, like it's a lot, right? So I'm not always gonna look, especially as a woman, like fully makeup on, hair done. It's a lot more of an investment of time for a female to do it. And I just don't want people to be afraid to be on video. So I'm actually going to give a little opposite advice and
Love
say,
it.
just freaking film it. Like, don't stress out. As a woman, you don't have to look perfect. You don't have to throw 14 filters on the video. Put your authentic self out there. People want to see you. They want to relate to you. Like, yeah, stay hydrated, brush your hair, right? But other than that, like, just do it. Too many people are afraid. They are not putting themselves out there. They're not building a brand online. And that's huge because, like we just said, outreach is a huge challenge these days. And you need to learn how to pull people in and to pull inbound leads. And a big part of that is using video.
Let
So
me
don't
ask
be
you this,
scared.
and I know you've
Yeah.
got a follow-up question, Mike, but I just have to pick Chelsea's brain live here because I'm so curious about
Yeah.
this as an outreach channel. How much of the success that you can see in video outreach has to do with building that reputation and that brand as a content creator versus just sending a bunch of messages kind of in a more private way, whether that's through DMs or email or whatever? Do you feel like you have to have the brand and the content creation chops for the other thing to work?
I think now every single business needs to have content. Like on average, your buyer consumes 13 plus pieces of content before they ever talk to a salesperson or book a demo. And they're 70% through their buying decision because of how they've self-educated. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but in the past, when we all started, well, maybe not you guys, you're a little young, but when I started, you did a cold call, you did a cold email, you were the salesperson, you were kind of the single source of truth. So they would listen to you because they couldn't really just go on their phone, search everything on the internet. They kind of, if they were curious, had to listen to you. Nowadays, they don't need you. They just need to go on to like G2, Clutch, your website, LinkedIn, self-educate. And then once they're almost done with their decision, then they need you. So if you don't have content supporting your buyer or your outreach, what are you even doing? Like, you're not selling in 2025. You're selling back in 2004. Sorry. It's true.
Fair. No, all fantastic points. Let me hop back in just because I want to make sure we get this question while it's timely. The question was, how long is an appropriate video introduction that you send to a new connection?
30 seconds is good, like 15, 30. I'd have to time mine, but they're probably about 30.
How much personalization and research are you doing before you send a message to somebody?
So I actually just posted about this today while I was on the treadmill in my cozy hat and my hoodie. So it's not going to be cute, but you could go watch it. I have a script in there. I said the research I do. So typically on outreach with LinkedIn in general, you want to take 5 minutes, look at the team that you sell into. So you look at their team on Sales Nav, look at the profile, comment on a few posts. You know, that's a big part of it. You have to comment 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 8 minutes. It depends. Like, depends how much is there, but not a lot. And then once you get the hang of it and you know what you're looking for, it goes very quick.
Interesting.
Wow. You're talking about multitasking. You were on the treadmill, putting out content, and and thinking and being a thought leader all at the same time. That's impressive in itself. I would just go back. I would also agree 30 seconds. If you can get it below 30 seconds, I would say just as important, include captions in your video.
Yeah, so they don't need the headphones.
Oh,
exactly.
That's smart. That's really smart. Do you always have a call to action? Like, do you always say, and I'd like you to use this link right here to schedule a meeting on my calendar? Or is it just, hey, I saw you, I think we can help you, would love to chat?
So it's neither, actually. So with outreach today, you don't want to be pushing for the meeting right away. You want to be asking for a question. So even if I was doing this manually, writing it, I would be like something like, if for me, right, for what I do with my company, I would say like, just curious, are you guys getting leads from LinkedIn? Just curious, or, you know, is your LinkedIn account doing anything for you? So for you, you could say like, just curious, you know, how is cold calling going for your team? Just curious, how's video working for your team? What are you guys using it for? And then get them to answer, pre-qualifying the DMs. And then if it's worth your time, then go take the meeting.
That's such an interesting, just different. I would roast anyone on my team for not immediately asking for a meeting in any contact.
So when I've done the research on this, because I've done a lot of it, I'm very mathematical. When you look at it, people are going to ignore you when they're going to go into fight and flight. They don't want the meeting. Like, they're like, oh my God, you're trying to take my time. When you go in and you just make it easy for them to text back and forth with you and pre-qualify them there, and you're asking the right questions, you could lead them to a meeting much quicker. But if you're attacking them and you're like, I want a meeting, blah, they're like, oh, I'm running away, and they'll never respond. So it's a reverse psychology almost.
Really interesting.
Yeah. I would add, I like that tip as well. I can see both sides of it. I'd say one thing I would do, but I'm a little bit unique in that I'm selling a video product, is I try to do something they haven't seen before, just to try to spark their attention. And typically what works for me the best, and again, in case anyone wants to try it, is I end my videos not by saying, hey, book a call with me. I end the video by putting my QR code on screen with me to my LinkedIn profile. And I said, hey, you want to chat? I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. It's amazing how many people actually will connect. And that's like the next step into including the conversation. So it's just another thing, just like trying to, oh, wow, that was interesting. So that's one tip that I've done. There was another question. I want to make sure we get in before we move forward to the next section. This has been awesome chat. I got another one. It says, any tips for account managers? I don't normally work with new clients, but I'm looking to use video to maximize my output. Maybe as you guys think about it, I would just offer one thing from that world that I've tried to think about is I find myself saying the same thing a lot, the same updates to a lot of my accounts often, where I'm feeling I'm a broken record. Those are the things that I immediately record and send on video, and I don't include that as part of our live conversations. Right? That's a video update that I can send to multiple people. If I want to personalize the beginning, fine. But I think that's the main thing I do, just be efficient, is to find those items and save myself a bunch of time. Curious if you guys have any other thoughts about account managers not new clients, but looking to use video to maximize. Any additional thoughts?
I think, Mike, I've heard you're actually the first person I heard talk about asynchronous work, right? Like, oh, I need to share some information or we need to ideate about something rather than having to find a time that works for everybody that's involved. Everybody kind of sharing their contributions when they have time, and the rest of the folks digesting that information and adding to it when they have time, assuming everybody works towards a mutual timeline, which I think is a really interesting work style. That to me sounds like a really smart use of an account manager's time. Like, hey, here's my template for sharing an update over the last 2 weeks on whatever the work that I've done on your behalf, client, or the work that we've done together, or the things I've seen you do. Here, I'm going to send it over to you. Take a look. If you have any questions, let me know, and we can certainly schedule a follow-up session rather than defaulting to we need to find a time that works for everybody to cover maybe a lot, maybe a little. I think that's, again, it's not my area of expertise, but just I think that's a super sharp way to handle something like
Yeah.
that.
I have to completely agree. You should be using video as an account manager or on customer success for everything. In the world that I come from, there's an onboarding call, like a kickoff call. That can be in a video. Not that you don't have to meet each other, but kind of just going over, like, here's the things we need on a video. This is what we're going to go over. Also, if you send reports, like a lot of agencies will have a monthly report, send that in a minute 30-second video where you're just going over the analytics. It's such a missed opportunity, and everyone wants to write out these long essays, and truly that's not how people consume anymore. They're overwhelmed. So if you could break anything into a quick recorded video for your customer, you're going to see an increase in customer retention. I can guarantee it.
It's a great tip. It's a great tip. Another question came in as we were talking there, and I'm going to keep going. And the audience questions should always take precedence.
Yeah.
Another question from Eden. It says, for customer discovery, I like this is an interesting question. For customer discovery, before you have product market fit, is there a different approach you take with video? So for those early customer discoveries, before you really have product market fit, is there a different approach that you take? I'm curious, you guys have any thoughts about that?
I don't know that I totally understand the question, Mike. If you maybe
Neither.
understand it more deeply, or you could phrase it in a different way, or if the participant could maybe share a different way to phrase the question.
Yeah, if you'd like to add more context, I guess I understood it as, and before you know exactly where you fit in the market, you know your messaging, it's all buttoned up. You're trying to get people to discover you. That's the way I took it. Like, you're trying to get found before you actually know exactly who this product is for. Are there different ways you'd use video? Now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Eden, if that's what your question was, but that's how I took it.
I haven't been approached, nor have I haven't personally been in that situation from that perspective, but I have been approached on LinkedIn by earlier stage companies who are still trying to figure out whatever it is, where they fit or how their product can help or what their messaging is. I haven't been approached via video with that thing, but the approach that they took in the message that they sent me was more like, hey, I see that you've got some experience in this space. Would love to get your opinion. Would love to get your feedback. Help me, understand what we've got here and how we could position it to people like you. So it was almost asking for a favor, like, hey, I think you've got some experience and your feedback would be really helpful to me. And I think something like that could certainly translate into a video as well. Could even be more appealing, right? Because the nonverbal cues that video provides can make something like that more endearing, more flattering, right? If you're asking somebody for their help because you respect their opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And he did follow up and said he's the first sales marketing or sales and marketing person at the company, trying to get prospective clients to engage with us. We've all been starting with asking for a favor. So he said, thank you so much. I don't know, like, Chelsea, any last comments about that one before we move to the next question?
Yeah. So I wouldn't, again, like, don't go straight for the kill. Go right now for a pre-qualifying conversation. Ask them a question, because you're assuming that this person is a good fit and they might not be. So what can you ask them to see if they're a good fit? Think like that. So do you, like, if it was Michael's company, do you use video right now to increase sales, or do you use video right now to increase customer retention, or whatever? Do you use a lot of video in your marketing? Those are the questions you'd be asking, because you're trying to see if there is an opportunity there and if they have a problem you can solve. So go in the DMs. Like, that's the best part, like, best way to do your research.
Love it. Yeah, great tips. So the last question before we move to live calls is, where does AI fit in outreach? You mentioned the scary videos where it looks like someone's kind of talking. AI is not going away. It's really cool. Where do you guys see AI actually being useful in terms of sales outreach, whether video, non-video? Like, just curious, where do you see it fit in?
I mean, I use a lot of it. I'm a brand ambassador for Dripify. I do sponsored posts as a LinkedIn content creator and influencer for tons of these companies, and I leverage a lot of this software. I think it's like you have to have an AI hive mentality where you can learn how to use AI and put it into your business. But there are just some things that you still need to use your brain for and personalize. So don't like throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to keep some personalization and run the AI and automation in the background.
I would, when people talk about AI, what percentage of the time are they literally just talking about ChatGPT? That's my question, right? Like when I think of AI, I think of two things because my day-to-day, I'm not an engineer, right? My day-to-day doesn't really use a lot of that, but I think of ChatGPT for text creation, right? However that works in your world, or you can use a platform like, I don't know, the lowest barrier to entry one's probably like Llama, right? For like visual, like generative AI. So are you creating images? Are you creating text? What other application, Mike, you probably know more about this than I do. What other application of AI is even relevant to sales or sales outreach?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry, Chelsea, you're gonna hop in?
No, I'm just saying a lot. Like I just did a post on 25 of my top AI tech tools, and that's only 25 of them. So like there's a lot. Like it's just a
Beyond
lot.
just generating text or generating like images?
Yeah, automating outreach, helping you understand your sales team and their productivity and the performance, and then I mean content creation, and I mean like literally the list goes on and on and on.
Interesting. Yeah, I think something that I always was interested in when I was doing more outreach personally, like as an individual contributor, was updating my messaging frequently. So an application that I think keeps the human element but allows you to work a little bit faster would be using something like whatever a chat GPT or whatever your model is, with good prompts to just more quickly iterate on email messaging and be able to A/B test stuff. Um, I think it's a good way to save a little bit of time on the creative aspect and just have more ammo to be able to use to send out.
Yeah, and I would just wrap this up by, well, maybe wrap up, or maybe almost wrap up, is saying that the topic of an AI SDR is interesting. I think that a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions about that. I wouldn't know if we need to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but there are tools now that are trying to do the cold calling for you, or at least write a personalized message for you. I don't. I get scared by that personally, but what I have done, just a simple thing, if I can say, if you want to start small, is I take my outreach emails and I ask ChatGPT to proofread them and make them more concise, and it just makes me sound a little bit. Just again, I'm not a major like the wording, so that's the one thing I do, and I just get more confident in that. So that's one small thing. I'm curious. You have any strong opinions about AI SDRs? I saw you both shake your head, but I'm curious to let you guys react.
I actually just heard one. Andrew, you're gonna like this. It was a AI, and this company was like, yeah, it sounds just like a human, and it was doing the cold call. I'm like, no, it doesn't sound like a
No.
human. Just because it said at the start of the conversation
Yeah.
and it doesn't have that super weird pause,
Yeah.
it still doesn't sound like a human. Like none of them right now sound like humans. Maybe in a year, but
If
I
we
have
talk
not seen them speak like a
if we
human.
talk specifically about cold calling, there are two conversion rates that are important. There's your connect rate, which AI maybe would be really good at finding the numbers that are more likely to pick up.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And nobody knows who dialed the number. But the one that's more important or most important is when somebody picks up the phone, what percentage of the time are you converting that to whatever you want to convert it to? In the case of my business, that would be a meeting. And AI eventually probably could get to the point where it's really good at overcoming a bunch of objections and converting connected phone calls to meetings. But the data set that it would have to be trained on would have to be extremely specific, not only to sales, but to the specific product and objections that that business would have to overcome and be really knowledgeable about. So the limitation to me is not how good does the voice sound. It is what is the actual material that is being used to train this AI SDR to on the fifth time when the person says, I'm not interested, I've already got a partner. What are they going to say to convince them to take the meeting?
Totally. So we could probably talk a lot about that. I'm looking at the time now. We have some topics
Mhm.
to cover. Let's put a pin in that and let's let people chat about that one. And let's go more to, we talk a lot about outreach. I think that's probably the hottest topic of video and such, but there's also, okay, you got the meeting, right? Now it's time to, this is where sales folks are supposed to shine. So I guess I'll start with a very high level question. I do have some strong thoughts about this as well, but I'll hold them back a little bit. Is what's the best way to close deals on video? You know, like if you have the person you're on, we talked about you put camera on. Are there any specific tools or strategies? And then like, where does the sales deck fit in? Let me just offer that as this big question. And I'll let either one of you start speaking about it. Like once, okay, are there any tips, strategies, preparations, things to think about, okay, now it's time to, the call is booked. Now it's time to hop on.
I always want to talk first. I'm just trying to be respectful. And
No,
always
Andrew,
give
go.
space to Chris. Yeah, so my team does a lot of this, right? We talk on Zoom demos all day, every day, and we've got a pretty transactional sales process based on, we offer month-to-month contracts and very reasonable pricing. So there's not a long consideration period for most of the folks that we work with. So we do close a lot of business right there on the call. I would say the two pieces of advice that I can always offer. One is kind of a conceptual abstract thing, and the other is more actionable. The first is, I think the energy and the passion that you bring is extremely important. The two people can say the very same thing read off a script. One person can be a little bit mundane, a little bit low energy. The other person can bring passion, have very good body language, gesticulate, make eye contact as much as you can through the camera, and invigorate the person on the other side of the screen. And that second person is going to win, in my opinion, significantly more business than the first person. So it is hard sometimes, especially when you do it a lot and you're just tired, or you didn't sleep well the night before, or you stubbed your toe when you're walking into your office. But if you come in low energy, or you're not passionate, or if you're not bringing it, you're hurting your chances of exciting the other person and motivating them to make a change. The more actionable thing, which is something that I've been working on more recently, is how do I don't want to use the word control because I think that sounds weird, but how am I influencing the attention of the person on the other side of the screen? And that has a lot to do with what's on their screen in front of them. Well, something I've tried to do that I've enjoyed thus far is, rather than sharing my screen the whole time, we do a platform demo as well as like a deck. I'll be in my platform demo, showing a few features or a few pieces of functionality, and then I'll stop sharing my screen. If I'm going to talk about something, rather than actually show or demo where it is, I'll stop sharing my screen because I want them focused on me and the words I'm saying, rather than the table or the numbers of the charts or whatever that are on the screen. So more actively managing my screen share, or what I'm actually showing, or what I want the prospect to focus on, has been a more actionable thing I've been working on recently.
That's very good advice that you gave there. I like it.
Now, I'll piggyback because I like that too. I think that's such an important thing to talk about. What I like to think about that, not again, the energy, the enthusiasm, totally agree. I like to almost think of my live calls as, not only am I the salesperson or the customer success, I'm the producer.
Hmm.
And I don't know if a lot of people think about that, but I think, if you think about tuning into your favorite podcast, radio show, there's a producer that makes it an enjoyable experience. It's the guy, it's, things run smoothly. The topics are laid out. It's a well-run show, yada, yada, yada. They're doing the things. There's no one to do that when you're on a sales call. So I think it's just important to think about, how do I make this an enjoyable time, enjoyable experience for my prospect? If it means I need to invest in some hardware, or if I need to practice going from showing to telling, or if I need, because again, you want the prospect to leave not only wanting to buy your product, but having enjoyed the time with you. And I think that if you think of it as a producer and you're putting on a show that this person is agreeing to show, they might have leave with that positive, attitude, and it might influence their aptitude to buy the product. So think about the call almost as a production, and you have to produce the show and learn from, if one didn't go well, make sure it doesn't go that way again. How do you fix that issue? So I think making sure that you're on point. You don't want to have fumbling around with, oh, can you see my screen? Oh, shoot, this doesn't work. I think that would be one tip I'd offer, just to piggyback on that concept of that.
Mike, I think
okay.
of it very similarly. The only small difference in cue that I think of and how I train my team is, think of it as a performance, right? Like, you are on stage and you are giving a performance, and you want the person on the other side to have a good time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So one more topic that relates to this, I think it's important to, again, we want to make sure we get to all the topics, but the follow-up. I think we should talk about what makes a good follow-up from a video call. What does do you send a video follow-up? Is that worth it? Is it text? How fast is the follow? I think it's worth commenting on, is there any tips or strategies or failures or learnings that you could share about the follow-up after the live call ends? And if not, we can just move on. But that topic did come up a couple times.
Yeah. So my demos are recorded. We use like a AI note taker, etc. I think a lot of people use that for their calls now, and it records the demos. And what I'll do if I have time, or if it was a particularly good call, or if there's a particular snippet that I think would be really good as a way to remind them why they liked it or how it solved their pain or whatever, I'll pull a snippet. I try to keep it short. Let's say like a 1 or 2 minute snippet of the call that articulates a specific pain that they had, or them saying like, wow, this would really help me do X, Y, and Z in my business. And then I'll send a link to that in my follow-up, like, hey, I was just rewatching our call from the other day, came across this clip where you said A, B, and C. Just wanted to, send this to you for reference, or if you want to share with your team. Just an easy way to kind of like take an asset that already exists, put it into bite-sized pieces, A, make a touch point on to follow up, and B, re-show them why they cared a lot about what we talked about on that call.
For me, I always make sure that I have another call booked with them. So if there is any proposal or anything going out, we have another time on the calendar. I book that at the end of the discovery call. So I, usually have a very tight time frame of where we're jumping back on a call. So I don't really have to worry too much about the follow-up, to be honest with you, because of my process up at the front.
I like that. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. We had a couple questions that came in. I'm just going to pause. We'll get to them. I just want to make sure we get to all the topics.
Yeah.
One thing I would just add is one thing I've done, and again, it's not been the most successful thing, but I just want to get the wheel spinning, is take a snippet of the call that you felt was the most impactful and include that with the follow-up. I would say like take the part where it was the aha moment and include that part of the video call in case they want to send it around. It's something that I've had limited success with, but I thought it was interesting to try. If we go to social selling, real quick, because this is one of our 4 topics, and again, keep the questions coming. We'll make sure to pump them in. Are there anything you can talk specifically? Now, we touched on this a little bit, which is why we want to get through it. But are there any specific campaigns, or are there any specific strategies that you've seen that have been very successful with connecting with prospects, building their personal brands? I know we've talked about the importance of it, but are there any examples, or and maybe Chelsea, I'll start with you here first. Are there any specific tips about social selling?
Absolutely. So first things first, if you have a sniper list, I call it, like your top 100 prospects, go online on LinkedIn and start commenting on their posts and the business page posts. So everyone thinks of social selling as like, I have to create content. What am I going to post? Just take a step back, go on LinkedIn, start commenting on your prospects' posts, showing them you exist, giving them some engagement. They'll appreciate it. Show the business page some love, and then go into the outreach. Now, when it comes to actually creating content, that is a whole training program that takes weeks. But what can I say here? Don't be afraid to share more personal type of posts on LinkedIn. Everyone keeps it like really stuffy. But if you start following creators like myself, and I can give you guys a list of other people, Luke Matthews is a great one. Darren McKee is a good one. Nat Berman. There's Lara Costa. We've built our brands based on us and sharing personal stories. So do that. Share stories about your business. Learn how to write specifically for the algorithm, because if you do not know how to write on LinkedIn, you're going to just go into this like deep void where no one sees your content. So hire someone to train you and train your team on this. But as a sales rep, start building your brand now, because you are your brand, and you're not going to be just this one thing you're selling. You have a whole career in front of you. So start building a brand now. Leverage LinkedIn. It's going to support your sales, and learn. Just start learning how to use LinkedIn for sales. Andrew?
Yeah.
I have nothing to add. That was very well
Come
said.
on.
No, I just my business unit primarily operates outside of social selling. I think that honestly, I'm glad I'm here as a speaker to be able to contribute a little bit, but also to learn, because I think this is an area that those of us who either come from a background of a more traditional cold call, cold email, whether it's still very successful for us now, or if we're feeling like we're getting pushed out a little bit, staying on the forefront and at least dipping your toes into something like this is extremely important. It doesn't mean it's going to blow the doors off and be the next explosive growth lever for your company today. But Chelsea, I think that's really well said. What you are doing today and what you're selling today your presence that you can build or your ability to sell through a new channel is only going to benefit you wherever you go next.
Yeah, and I'd love, Andrew, if you started posting about cold calling and your day-to-day and your success with it, and Michael about video creation, how people can implement into their business and like your experiences, because that, I'm sharing yes about LinkedIn and other outbound sales systems, but people need to hear all of these because like you said, there's many levers you need to pull, and you need to pull them all in order to scale today.
Yep.
Yeah, these are great points. I agree. That's I think selling on social selling again. We're wrapping up, but I think social selling is all your points are made are so good. I think there's an art to it with like selling without people knowing you're selling. Like don't be too on the nose with it. You're being more offering tips. I think there's a certain art form, and you're agreed. I think the people that do it well, I respect a lot. So the big finish before we get to any last audience questions is an open-ended question, and you guys can say you've covered everything. I just want to offer you the opportunity because we're here. We're wrapping up. Thank you so much, everyone. By the way, for in the chat. We're going to end at 4. We're not going over 4 Eastern. Do you have, is there any final tips or a bold statement or a prediction that you'd want to make or just one thing you forgot to mention about any of the topics we've talked about that you want to share with the audience? Any like predictions, bold statements, anything that you want to just, again, maybe you've already done it, but I just want to offer that as the opportunity in case there's something that you've been meaning to get out. Now's the chance.
I read a phrase recently that has stuck with me ever since. It's people who are successful or get the most stuff done have a bias towards action, meaning they don't overthink or overplan. They just go and do stuff, which I think I love that. And Chelsea, I think, made a great point about that. Like, don't worry so much about your preparation or your script. You just film the thing, get the thing out there, and get in the rhythm of doing it. And I think that's true for anything new you're going to try, whether in sales or in business in general. Don't overthink it. You've got to obviously make sure you're making good choices, but like, go and start doing the things. It's the only way you're going to see what's going to work and what's not. And the faster you fail, the faster you can iterate.
Absolutely. And I guess what I would add to that is, try to play with a different form of outreach. So is it a different form, right? To connect with somebody and just have a conversation, like a text chat in the DMs, almost like you're on a dating app, right? You're just texting back and forth. Play with it. See what happens. I can tell you 1 out of 10 of those conversations usually converts to a meeting if you're talking to the right people. Whereas if you're blasting people and asking them to jump on a call, you could have 1,000 outbound emails go out and barely 1 converts to a meeting. So just start playing with it, have a conversation, start consuming content on LinkedIn that your prospects make. Just dip your toes in it that way, because it is a journey and it takes time. And building a brand took me years. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, but just give it a try.
Love it. Let me offer mine and just say, if you haven't taken the time to step back and evaluated your own communication, the ways you do it, the methods you've done that have worked that no longer work, the way you communicate with your prospects, with your customers, with your internals, I think it's just important. I would say to do that. What can be recorded, what can be live, what's the parts that they're dragged you can do better. I just think it's worth the time to do it. That would be my tip. I can talk more about that. We are getting to where there's an awesome question that we didn't have time to get from about a framework. We will follow up about that. I just want to make sure we have the time to wrap this up appropriately. Again, I am Michael. That's Andrew. That's Chelsea. Thank you so much for joining us today, for your questions. I'll offer up, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, please do. I'll be happy to continue the conversation. If you didn't have a chance to check out the demo of but you saw something that was interesting, you want to check it out, that's me. Don't bother these guys with it, but that would be me. I'd be happy to help out and show you around. And I think there's a lot of really fun and useful ways people are using the product. So Rev Genius, thanks so much for helping us with the webinar. And again, the amount of time you guys took out of your day means a lot to us, and for joining in the conversation. So I hope you all, and Chelsea and Andrew, have a great rest of your day. And thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.